Live. Hey everybody, welcome to the Elsewhere podcast. I'm Kat and I'm here today with the very first authors ever on the channel. I'm super stoked because I've followed them for a super long time, and that's Izzy Sweet Sean Moriarty. They are dark romance authors and they're a couple, so who would have thought, right? But everybody say hi to them. No, but we are.
Hey everyone.
There we go.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Yeah, we're just it's new for us and we're not used to having authors. Like I said, you guys are the very first, so it's kind of a brand new thing. So we'll just kind of wing it together. To be honest, got tons of stuff to ask you, and anything that's in the chat that stands out, I'll try to ask you. If you catch something that you want to, but I'll give my background on it just a little bit real quick so that they kind of know how I know you guys, because I've been in your Facebook group for years. I mean, for years, like almost 4 years, I think. They actually have a Facebook group for their, I found it in one of their books. They say, hey, catch us on Facebook, and I clicked it. Back before I started reading, y'all know I read every day, all day. Before I started doing that again, I actually found their Disciple series and got hooked and had to binge read all of them in a row, boom, 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 boom. And like, I think it was like a day and a half, 2 days, all of them. And then I found the link and I went in there, and their group is amazing and they're fun, and they're actually in there talking to people and posting and checking comments and stuff. So it was actually really cool. But that's how I found you guys, and I've actually followed your group for a while. I don't post in there very often anymore, but I
Oh, that's fantastic.
they're pretty cool in there. You know, they post some, and by the way, they post some racy stuff. So if y'all aren't into that, then
Yeah, we're a little NC-17 on most of every one of our books.
It's we're constantly walking the line with the rules.
Yeah, what can we offend people with and not get kicked out of?
So for anybody that isn't aware, the books that they write are not kids' books.
No. No, not adult friendly at all.
You mean
Or
what?
Kid friendly. Crap.
You got a couple of dorky, introverted authors on here.
Who are not entirely bright, so.
Well, you guys are creative, and that's the thing I tell everybody. I'm like, I'm not creative. I love creative people, but I'm not one. By the way, I did forget to do this, and I apologize. Shout out to the chat. I see you guys in here. Appreciate you being here, especially right off the bat, from the start. I see a lot of people that I know from elsewhere. I see a couple of people I don't know, but I appreciate each and every one of you for coming through and just, you know, kicking it with us. Like I said, if you have questions, drop them in the chat, and we will try to answer. But no, the books that they write are, I mean, I think that Nick and Truth, when they came to my house, they're literally call them dirty books. They swore that my sci-fi shelf that's over here in my front room, they're like, look at all these dirty books. The alien on the moon? Oh, that's gotta be the moon. That means they were just being stupid about it. But they don't understand that my Kindle is full of thousands. So they didn't get to see the good. There's my mom. Hi, Mom.
That's the great thing about Kindle. That's one of real big selling points is it was always a little embarrassing to like crack open my Harlequins in public. With, the lady being embraced by Fabio. You gotta hide that cover.
I
No,
just
you
look
don't
at
really
people and
need
kind
to.
of
They
wiggle
can't
my
tell.
eyebrows like, Like,
I don't know why you guys would be embarrassed. I embrace my absurdity when I go out in public with my books.
That
But
must
then
be
again,
a
half the
male
time I've
thing.
shoved them into my kids' hands and said, "Yep, nope, not mine."
What?
How did you pick that up, buddy? Put that down.
Oh, it's terrible. Our kids are so curious about it.
That's the oldest one, especially. He knows what we do, and the youngest one does too. He's only 9, but the 12-year-old, he knows what we do, and he likes to be like, "I'm going to grab one of your books and just pull it out of the box and read it." And we're like, "You
I
can
won't
read anything,
pay
just
for
don't do
your
it."
therapy. I will not pay for your therapy.
Yeah, it's just no.
That's what I
we're not
told
gonna pay
him.
for it.
Ben has a great question. He says, so as authors that are a couple, how much do you pull inspiration from your relationship dynamic? Are any of the scenes like from real life?
Well,
No, just kidding. I'm sure you hear this
Yes.
constantly.
Yes.
yeah, and I think it's the process that we use to. I think we're a little unique in our process. I don't know how others work, but I've talked about this to other authors at conventions, and they seem very surprised. We don't really plan a lot of our books. We know how it's going to set up, and we know always how it ends. The middle is us just winging it, and we write at each other. So it's almost like we write from beginning to end, and we alternate chapters, and we don't tell each other what we're going to write.
So do you guys, because, okay, and a lot of people, if they haven't read your books, like, for example, the Disciple series, Mom, what themes? Dirty Mom. Dark Romance Mom. Bodice Rippers Mom. Jeez. I'm like, my mom's listening to me talk about dirty books. That's awesome. No, but
Sean's parents have read it.
Well,
Stuff. They liked it.
you know the bad thing is when you come to a signing. If you come to a signing and we're there, and if your mom's there with you, I'm gonna hit on your mom. It's just how it is. So just know if you ever make it to a signing, I'm hitting on your mom.
Stop.
Yo, Mom, when they come to Houston, you'll come with me.
Yeah. Oh no.
You know, I
Oh,
feel
no.
awful saying that at points, but it's like I don't go out of my way to be absurd or anything, but I put my true persona out there, and Sean's a little nutty.
That's hilarious. But for anybody who hasn't read their books, for example, the Disciple series, there tends to be a lot of times there's a male and a female perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, even in our solos, except for I think Izzy's science fictions when she was doing it by herself. In all of our solo books, besides that, well, no, that's not
No,
true.
not my solos. I only write. That's how we started writing.
Yeah, my solos
Is-
always have the alternating, and then all my books with her have the alternating.
Well, we started writing together because I had written some sci-fi, but I wrote it from just her point of view, and I was like, I want to do a bad boy book, but I don't think. I want him to be like a real bad boy. So I looked at Sean, and I had been writing it for a little bit already, and I was like, hey, you think you can help me write this book? Like, you write the dude. If your writing sucks, I'll fix it up. I'll make it great, but make him like manly. And like a real bad boy for me. I don't think I'm manly enough.
My obvious question was, and you're asking me why?
And then we had to go through is like what kind of book we're gonna write. So I'm throwing all the tropes at him. I'm like, you wanna write MC? He's like, no. You wanna write I think I even asked Mafia that time. He's like, no. I was like, well, what kind of bad boy do you wanna be? And he's like, let's write MMA. And he sat down and he wrote that first chapter of Banging Reaper, and I read it and I was like, oh no. This doesn't suck. I don't really have to fix it up. And then we just ran with it. And I think that's what I really like writing about him is, again, we don't know. So he's constantly surprising me and doing things I would never think to do. And I'm glad I asked you to write that book.
I mean, sometimes you're not when you accuse me of killing people. And I take the blame in public to everyone. If you're in our reader group, you realize everyone blames me for everyone's
You
death.
did it. You started it.
She
Yeah,
will
so if you
never
kill
take
off a
the blame for
character,
it.
it's always you. It's your fault.
Yeah, and every day they have a trope or a post in there, and they're like, you know, authors, laugh when readers are crying, or what kind of tea do they drink, and all this stuff, and I'm like, it's not me. It's
You
Izzy.
did it. You started. I only asked for 2 characters to be killed. 2. You started it because that was the thing with it didn't happen in Lily, did it?
No,
So
well, yeah,
Lily's
we
the
killed one,
first
but
book in Disciples. And Amy, he did it. And Amy, at the end of Amy, I don't want to spoil it, but you'll remember. He did that without telling me. Because, we don't talk to each other. So I'm like, hey,
Surprise,
I
they're
have
dead.
plans for that dude. Because when you write romance, you need to, kind of... Especially if, the first book takes off well and people are interested in the side characters, you need those side characters to write more books, and he just keeps killing them off. It's like, we gonna start growing men out of the ground or something? Come on.
No, because a lot of the stuff you guys do is like they tend
Yeah.
to be, which is, by the way, is my ultimate. I don't like. I'm not a standalone book because I want it to keep going. I want to know more. I want to have the next part of the story, and the next part, and the next part, and the next part. One of my favorite authors in the entire universe is Bertree Small.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, all of her. I wish I could have the entire collection. You could, all the characters, their grandkids, their cousins, their brothers, their step uncles, and they all, the story just keeps building. And it's one of those, if you know, right? So if you knew this,
Yeah.
wink, wink, there's a lot of stuff like that. But
Inside stuff.
so Sean's a bigger risk taker on the dirty dirt.
yeah, I don't even know if it's a risk taker. It's just I'm like, oh, I see a moment where I can kill somebody and piss her off. Let's do it. And the way we write is I'm in one part of the house, she's in the other, and we email each other our chapters. After we're done, we're like, hey, this is it. What do you think? And she kind of said how we do it, but sometimes I'm like, hey, where do you need me to pick up at, or where do you need me to leave off? And the biggest problems we have is when she doesn't tell me. Or if we've been having an issue that day and arguing that day, then I'm like, you know what? Let's kill somebody that everyone loves.
Aw.
But no, but not truly often do we do that. But no, and then we'll email each other chapters, and all of a sudden, and I feel bad for our kids because you'll hear screaming across the house of, what the fuck did you just do?
Yep.
And it's me being, oh, I'm sorry. Do you not like it? She said, no, I love it, but what am I supposed to do
That's the
now?
problem. You do it so well, and I was like, it fits. I gotta leave it. But darn it, I had plans for him. I think the thing is, he doesn't really read romance.
We're not supposed to tell them that, are we?
He's writing romance without really knowing how romance works. He gets to do that part, He gets to just focus on being the man in the books. And where I'm trying to hey, you can't do that in these kind of books, but I think too, because he's not a romance writer, there's a little edge to the books too. You just don't necessarily know what's going to happen, how far it's going to go. At least the Disciples. But you talked about how you love series. It was funny because when I wrote Keeping Lily, I had no plans of it being a series.
No.
At all.
Wow.
I'm
Okay.
sorry.
No, I remember, I think one of the things the greatest thing ever was that she told me we were laying in bed. She's like, and it was at night, we were just laying in bed, pitch black, and she rolls over in her and she's like, hey, I have this idea. And I'm like, okay, leave me alone. I'm going to sleep. And that was my first instinct was, leave me alone. I'm going to sleep. And she's like, I want to write a book, and I want to see how far we can push our readers before they say, no, that's it. I can't do it anymore. I'm done. So we're like, huh. And that instantly woke me up. I'm like, tell me more. What do you mean? And then she goes into the whole beginning of Keeping Lily. She's like, I want to write a man who's so beautiful and so just devastatingly handsome that they call him Lucifer. And then she talks about, I want to see how far we can push these readers. And the whole big, and since, can I give a little away?
I have no clue what you're even talking about, so I'm trying to
Well, he's
where
trying
you're
not
going
to
with
spoil
this.
the book. Like, if for people
Yeah,
that,
really
that
trying not
want
to
to turn
spoil
around
Lily, but
and try to go
You
read
can
it.
spoil it a bit.
okay. Well, when we went into it, it was I'm going to have a man come in. He's going to take away a woman's, a woman from a husband, and I'm like, okay, that's really cool. And then I really didn't think about it until after the fact of when she started writing. I'm like, oh, this is fucking awesome. That she has the guy and it feels like me. I felt like Marshall, like, the guy rolls over and farts, and all of a sudden it's every woman's dream of the man she's married to getting
You are
kicked
not
out.
Marshall.
And that's how I felt. I'm like, oh no. She's marshalling me? Is this a hint that she needs a devilishly good looking man to come and take her away? But after that point, she was like, it was like she, because we had written, Keeping Lily was first, and then I did Hitman books, right?
I think so. I'm not. Getting
Oh,
old.
wow.
I'm losing my memory.
But she had never really allowed me to take my hands off an MMA world because they're bad boys with a heart of gold. We
There's
weren't allowed to kill.
limits.
Yeah.
And those limits were getting aggravating.
Very. I couldn't kill somebody.
So, like
You
you
couldn't-
said,
yeah.
you set parameters. Like, okay, well, we're
Yeah.
kind of like, this is like a little bit too much. I could do this, but a bit far. Like, you're not killing off my favorite people. Like, these are like, I don't know, kind of like the hall pass, but opposite. Like, these are the no kill people.
Yeah. The
Like any other
no
character,
pass, I
you
guess.
can like have their head sent in a box. You can, run them over
Right.
with a train. You can, drop them sleeping with the fishes. You could do whatever you want. But or they could die of like whatever. But these people, don't touch them.
Yes, exactly. Because, I mean, like, in the MMA, I can't drag a guy outside the street and cut his balls off. But in Disciples, that's just every other day. That's like taking your kids to church. It doesn't matter.
Well, it's interesting too how we even because again, like when he talked about me laying in bed and telling the idea, I was starting to get a little frustrated because, like we said with the MMA, there's kind of limits. They're bad boy romances, but they can't be like evil guys. And it was like, and I was getting fascinated with the villains.
I love the villains. Everybody loves the villains.
I think Loki in Avengers and stuff really was inspiring. And then you start thinking you see all these like supposedly great, evil, powerful men in the world. They're in very powerful positions, and they usually have a woman at their side. They're married, whatever. And it's like, why is she with him? What does he give her? And just being fascinated with that. And it's like, well, the whole concept of he's so dark, he's so evil to everyone but her.
Right.
Everyone but her. And then I honestly was a little scared because we got really crazy with that book. And I'm like, when I published it, I thought we were going to get laughed out of the author world. People were going to hate it. And I was super surprised. And because we had just too much fun. We have so much fun with the Disciples. It's just fun and crazy. And it's totally over the top. It's not realistic, but it's fun. It's like an action movie or something, but with lots of love and crazy stuff going on. So when we wrote that,
the absolute favorite is the bad boy that is unapologetically like, I love you, so therefore I'm going to chop his head off, and yep, that's who I am. And they're like, oh, isn't that sweet? Happy Valentine's Day, honey. Like, like, so,
Well,
hands
to
down,
be
I love
fair, to be fair though, how many of the books have you read of ours where the woman's just like, I guess I'll take that, severed head? Because if you read in our books, at one point, every single one of our books, the woman has to make a choice. Do I love the monster who will burn down the whole world, or do I? Yeah, it's what am I going to accept in my life? Am I going to accept someone who's bat fucking shit crazy? And they really are all of them. I mean,
yeah,
it's, and I please understand, I am not speaking down against Twilight at all. I love Twilight personally.
Don't.
I love the books. I've loved the movie, so I don't even care. But in Twilight, if you would have had Bella and Jacob and douchebag, sorry.
No, don't you stop it.
No, you know what team I'm on when I do that. Edward or
Stop.
Jacob. No, I am actually on Edward's team. Here's the thing. If you would have
Oh.
had, in real life, Edward would be behind bars. Bella would be a mental institution in real life. But we wanted to be like, how far can we push him and make a woman decide, this guy's a monster, but he won't hurt my kids, and he's not going to hurt me. Is that enough? Because money's obviously not. Money is not everything. I mean, is security going to be enough for me?
Right.
That was my big thing.
Or is love
I
itself,
loved it.
right? Or
Yeah, I
is
love.
is love
I
itself
love pushing that
enough?
boundary.
No, I do too. See, I teeter a little bit. There's a little bit where the way you guys do it is a lot more subtle. I don't know how to say it. Not subtle. There are some people that write these characters, and some people get real close to this. This is like my biggest pet peeve in the world. Not like you asked, but I'm gonna tell you anyway. My biggest pet peeve is the woman that isn't gonna take any crap, right? And the person's like, please love me, and she's like, no, I don't trust you, I know better. And then she stomps off and she has her nose in the air and she gets mad, and like the entire book she's like literally rejecting. I just want one of these times one of the characters will, well, fuck you then.
I walk away.
You gotta be like, honey, you are way too much effort for this bullshit. I can go find someone else like on a corner if I have to. That's a lot easier off.
I'm just saying. It's like I read one. I can't remember which one it was. The only I don't write bad reviews on Amazon, except I've done it like twice ever. And one of them was like,
Oh, are you a naughty person when you do that? Because
I
no,
was
I'm just
mean.
teasing.
I wasn't mean. I just said if you could take the female character out of this book, I would. I'm only here because the other people like are great.
Wow.
But your main character is obnoxious and whiny and complaining and just like, I'm gonna betray everyone because I'm a journalist. And it's like, oh my god.
Yeah.
But it was so over the top. It was literally like beating down the other characters because their shit didn't stink, right? It was that kind of a thing. And that's the only thing I ever have a pet peeve about. And one of the only 2 bad reviews I've ever written. But I just felt they needed to know, okay?
No,
It's okay.
It's harder. It is harder to write a female character. You have to be careful because
Oh,
you need to give
100%.
some strength and agency there. Like, kind of when I do the Disciples, I love horror books. And it's almost from her point of view for a while in the beginning, it's like writing a horror book. This man comes in, he takes her power away. He takes away all her control over her situation away. And there's nothing she can do about it. And she's struggling with that. But it is hard to write, and it's so much. One of the reasons I wrote The Disciples is because there were instances in like the MMA books where the girl is standing up for herself. She's like, no, you crossed this line. You knew it was a line. And then you'd get readers, I'd see readers be like, oh, she's horrible. She's awful. She didn't deserve him. It's like, you got to find that balance of, you don't want a total pushover. But
Right. You don't want a raging bitch
so-
either.
But yeah, it's hard
Yeah.
because, and two, sometimes when you're writing it, it doesn't feel like a raging bitch to you.
I get
And
that.
then somebody else reads it and they're like, oh.
The,
Like, when I put out Meredith, some people thought Meredith was a real bitch and hero. Like, yeah, she kind of was, but she wasn't too bad. She
No.
knew what Matthew had done. She admitted that she had seen him, and that freaked her out and set her running. And then she was, she was kind of being a man-eater.
On one side, like that, like you said, it's the balance. Because
It's trying to get you have to figure out how the reader can relate to the character, and that can be hard.
no, absolutely, because you can't win them all. There's always going to be
Yeah.
somebody and anybody that's on any platform, that's on YouTube, that's on Facebook. There's haters. There's just people that it seems like they live to dislike everything you do, or they just have like, why did you waste your time saying these nasty things? and you're never going to avoid that, but yet you can find that balance. There's a happy medium where it's not too wishy-washy. And then you're right, the female characters are a pain in the ass. I'm sure to write.
Oh yeah, the men can usually do no wrong.
Men don't do any wrong. We're the golden boys in the book.
So we're like,
and it's true.
How much can he do? That's another thing we push with disciples. How far can he go before a reader's like, no, that's enough? And apparently, there is no line or limit, especially if it's not towards her. And I think that's the thing, definitely with all the books. Always, you're in a dark romance, but you're safe because you know that he's not going to hurt her.
He's her monster.
It's not that kind of dark. There are torturous, dark romances out there that I love. At least in this series, you're pretty much safe when you're reading her point of view that he's not going to do anything awful to her. He is doing horrible things to everybody else.
Yeah, no, like I said, I absolutely, hands down, adore the unapologetically bad boy. Like, that's I like the MCs, the mafias, I like all of it. Give it all. The billionaires that don't give a shit because they've got all the money and they're gonna do what they want for it. The ones that have 7 different levels of different mafias. You've got the Bratva here, and then you've got the Mexican over there, and you've got the the Irish mob, and you've got the Italians. You've got all of them, right? And all of them, like I said, series are awesome. But the way that you guys write, it hooked me. And like I was saying in the beginning, one of the big things personally to me was that I was not in the best place. Mentally, I was not in the best place. I was lonely as bull. I just, I was tired of just watching TV all the time. So I poked around a little bit. And I just happened, I don't even know how, I'm going to read a book that I've read a million times from back when. Because I used to read a ton. And then all of a sudden, I decide to get on Kindle and just check it out, right? And I just happened to, by suggestion, or if you like that, you'll like this. And that's how I found, I actually read the Disciple series first. And then I read all the MMA ones. So, and then I read the standalones after that. So, because I ran out of series, so I'm like, dang it. So I had to go find more. But it got me on a journey of in less than it's been now, it'll be 2 years in let's say October. I've probably read close to 1,500 books, and I stopped reading for a good 8 months of that time.
Oh, crap.
In the middle.
Yeah, I'm a slow reader. I don't know how y'all do that.
Fast reader. I can read a whole sentence as a whole, or a paragraph, and I don't know. I don't know how to put it, but I'm a really super fast reader, and it sucks because then the book's over soon, but then I get to the good parts really fast. But it kind of snapped me out and got me interested because it's the first series that I went into. I used to read Wheel of Time, right, or Legend of the Seeker. All of those. I read all of Game of Thrones, but all of those because they're all series, right? But
yeah,
I just hadn't really found good series in this genre. And all of a sudden, you guys got me down that path. And then I saw the recommended, authors after reading yours. And then it kind of just went from there and on. And then I would ask questions in the Facebook group, and I'd be like, so what would if you're looking for stuff and it's not them, because I've read every book you guys have, who else would you recommend? And people would start recommending stuff. And that's kind of what started me on that path.
That's fantastic. I'm glad you found us.
Yeah.
It's funny because it's kind of how she's my best friend now. She started as a reader. She did too. She never read a real book. And then she was in the Twilight fan fiction world. It's crazy how many romance authors there are out there that are really successful and doing very well that actually were Twilight fan fiction authors I didn't even know. But she was in that. She happened to see a Facebook ad for Keeping Lily, and she tried it. And then now that she's just like us, she reads tons of books. It just started her down that. And I don't know.
Well, I think it's also the impact personally. on me as a person and my mental health.
Mhm.
It made me a lot less lonely finding good books. Like it's like I said, it set me down a path of keeping my mind busy when I had just gotten out of a really bad marriage. I moved across, to the country. I don't know anybody. I still don't know anybody here, but you know, my kids weren't happy about it. Like there's all this stuff going on, and then to have an escape, and not only that, but it could continue through multiple books, which was amazing, and it to be so well written. And then, oh my God, I can actually get in the Facebook group, and they're like every like check um all the boxes, right? And it just started me on that path of like it made me so happy that I just kept doing it, and that's how I got read so many damn books. But that's the thing though, is that you just never know. And that's why I tell people all the time, if you are in any way, shape, or form in the public view of in any way, shape, or form, it's free, and you just never know when something you say might change somebody's world. Just don't know. Somebody happens to see something you posted, it made them laugh when they might not have been laughing, and they made a better decision because of it. They had a better experience or created a good memory. You just never know, and it's free. So, you guys being in your Facebook group and available and talking to people and having cool people, it meant a lot at a time I needed it. So, I'm sure you guys have affected a lot of people that way that you might not even know.
No, I didn't know. I'm glad that we had that impact on you. Is we're kind of just grateful. Like,
Yeah.
I think, I mean, we've been publishing books for I don't know how long, but it's still just grateful to that people are actually interested. So we're like, oh my goodness. So to us, you coming into our group, we're like, oh wow, hey, how you doing? I'm so glad you actually like the books. And when we write, that's exactly, you mentioned escapism. We are writing to create an escape, to create entertainment. This is fun and this is
Right.
safe. It's a safe way. And romance in general just gets poo-pooed on so much everywhere. Even dark romance, especially, but romance in general, like people who are
Hate it.
outside don't get it. It's just escape. It's just like people that like horror movies. At
They hate
least
romance and outside of it almost.
there's a lot of great elements in romance. It's the reason it's the top selling genre. It's especially, traditionally published or self-published. There's a huge demand because readers like me and you just devour books. I devour books.
I'm running
And
out of books to. I'm not gonna lie to you. I actually had to go searching to try and find, and I've actually shifted genres tiny, not much, but now I'm kind of going into because I like these two, but like the fantasy, like paranormal, kind of sort of like witches and vampire, all that stuff. Because when it comes to the kind that I'm talking the taboo trigger types that I really like. Those
mhm,
I can't find ones that I haven't like I'll get it on Kindle
yeah.
and it says read. I'm like shit. Okay. So I return it and I go get another one up read. Oh crap. you know.
I'm really glad that they've introduced that, though. I'll tell you now, because also a huge reader, and that should be a surprise. But going through Kindle Unlimited and you're searching for books that you haven't read, and then you're like, for a while, it didn't tell you if you read anything. Do you remember that beforehand?
Oh yeah.
And it was like, you start reading a book and you're like, oh man, and then you got to return it, go back and find another one. It was just awful because I'd have a lot of books and I wouldn't remember the covers of them just because I've read them or they've changed covers. Really glad they did that. Sorry.
No, I completely agree. I used to have and now Goodreads does it automatically for me. And
Yeah.
I've shared my Goodreads. I would joke around with people. I'm like, if you really want to see it, I'm reading. I check my Goodreads, and people make jokes about it, especially since those guys came to visit and they're making fun of it. And my books, which are sci-fi books, there's Anne McCaffrey, like that's 90% of them are Anne McCaffrey books up there. Um, and like Piers Anthony, like come on, that's not the same. But
Those are not dirty.
but
Those are so, don't take this wrong, vanilla compared to what we write.
oh, I
Like, for them to
know.
freak out about that, it's like, oh boy, that's
No,
fun.
but they just because they know, and I'm not shy about it. I talk about it on the podcast. I talk about it in the server. I talk about it in the chats. Like I'm very open about it. I I love what I call my dirty books. I love them. You know, I'm like, I'll be back, y'all. Like, it's a really good scene. Like, give me a second, because I read while I'm doing other stuff. Like while I'm on voice chats and stuff, I'm like listening out of one ear. So
Yeah.
it's not everyone here knows, and which is why I don't think anybody is surprised that my intention was to get authors on here, because we want to know the people behind it. Because you can write a great story, but it's shocking. It's a little shocking to get to know the people behind art that people put out. Like,
Yes.
just to know you as a person, your personality, you know, dogs bark in the background, anything. It humanizes you, and it makes people fall in love with your art more. If they already like what you do, it makes them more interested, just because I think that we're in the days now, and not everybody can be up on pedestals, that we all kind of like worship all these super uber famous people on these pedestals. Now everyone has a chance to get their stuff out there. The way you do that is by interacting and people getting to know who you are, not all your personal details, you know, but your process and some of your thoughts. Champagne Rain asks, how many books or series do you have out? Count them.
She had asked the question that authors should know. I know more authors who can't tell you the number than I do who can tell you the number. We have our MMA series, which is the Pounding Hearts. We have the Disciple series, which is our dark romance mafia. We have the start of our next series is a vampire series called the series, but first book is called Willing. Then we have my solo Hitman books. We have our sci-fi series called
Starjoined.
That
was so fun.
It was. Then you have Izzy's reverse harem series, and it was
I didn't even know
the Ravager Chronicles.
that was before reverse harem. Like, I didn't realize. I didn't even know I knew I just kept throwing guys in there. I didn't know there was a word for it even when I wrote it.
That's
I knew what she was doing in the first thing. I'm like, she's got a reverse harem going on. It surprised me that she didn't know.
Well, that's when reverse harem was like, a lot of people didn't know what reverse harem was when I wrote that. Like, it was a new term and now everybody knows.
Yeah, it's a big thing now, but when it was like 7 to 10 years ago, that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
And those are my go-tos, by the way.
Back then there was harem, but see, I'm completely old school compared to her. Then on that was because I knew what harem was for male books, but you didn't really find a lot of male harem books. You had to go onto websites and all that to actually read male harem stories. So when she started doing reverse, it was very fascinating to me to see how she would play it out.
It's just how it played out. I didn't even.
But I think like there's a total somewhere.
I have no clue how. I've been asked this several times. I have no clue how many books I've written. I haven't been counting.
After I honestly, I think after the 10th book we did, it was just like,
maybe.
It was just like, just keep pushing. Don't count backwards because then you get in trouble.
Math is my weakest.
You don't math well?
No, I do not.
Well,
there's 6 books in Disciples.
Yeah, there's 6 of those. And isn't there
5 in the MMA?
That's what I was about to say. I think there's 5. So that's 11.
So what? And then we have the vampire book. That's 12.
Yep.
Then we have the 2 sci-fi books.
Dude. Propositioning Love.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that one.
That was our one true contemporary. That's 14.
Okay, so you wrote 3 solo books?
Yep.
I wrote 2 solo books. How much is that?
18, I think, so far. 19.
Wait, take off my 2.
No, because they were good books.
And how many have we written together? We gotta go back.
Oh Lord, 13.
So yeah, a lot.
We read 13 together.
We have 20-something books total together and solo.
Wow. I've written 20-something. I don't even feel like I've written 20-something books.
It's like looking at each other and saying, how long have you guys been married? And you're like, looking at each other like,
your fingers and toes, like, wait a minute.
Yeah, I mean, we got married in 2006.
I guess.
Yeah, because it's the 16th anniversary, right? Last year was 15.
Okay.
Yeah,
don't keep track of this I guess
It's
we just
awfully
don't
bad.
put so much importance on numbers. Numbers don't really matter as long as we just still like being around each other. We're not ready to kill each other yet. We'll get there though, maybe.
Nah. No.
We'll see.
We'll just yell at each other for a couple days and go back to normal as best
Just
friends.
get a
Yeah.
character named Shane. Just knock him off one of
Shane?
the books.
I swear, didn't you rate a Sean in one of your he didn't die, did he? In one of your solos?
No, but I have. Y'all have no idea how many people I've killed that are former bosses, friends that were former friends. I killed a lot of people off, and
Yes.
it's enemies. I mean, I've killed a lot of people, and people never know. Yeah, I killed you so many times in my book, you motherfucker. And it's like looking at you like, and it's fun because you know that you did it, but they will never know.
I actually need to hook back up with Nicole. You know, she wrote the Rockstar one. Everybody should love Rockstar at least once in their life. That one. She promised that she was going to attempt. She didn't promise she would do it, but she did give me the. She said that she would to kill off my ex-husband in one of her books in a really bad way. She was going to write a horror next, and I was like, cool.
Oh, Nicole. Bryant.
Yes.
No, I can't think of her.
She's
Is
got
that
like
her?
4 different names on Facebook. She's got like two profiles. So like to me, in my head, it gets mixed. So I didn't want to like say the wrong one. So that's why I mentioned the first ad I saw from her. Which
Yeah, she killed me off in one of her books. I was pretty happy about it. I was like, thanks. I'm good with that. Dude, if I could,
Circle of life.
yeah, I mean, if I can help someone, further their story along by dying, I'm good. There's not a lot of things I won't let happen to me in other books besides, I mean, I even told her, she was like, are you okay if you got pegged or something? I'm like, yeah, go for it. It's not my real level that's getting it done to.
Stop.
What? I mean, I'm being truthful.
Well, speaking of pegging, have you guys ever considered doing?
Speaking of pegging. Oh boy.
No, I mean, going with the theme of like, the reverse harem plus, pegging, because you said it, I didn't.
Oh god, I can't wait to see where you go with this one.
Well,
It's
have you ever
scaring me.
considered, because there's very few, it's not very common, but there are some that are like reverse harems that have like, they cross swords.
Yeah, sword crossing. Sword fighting.
I think she has
I have tried to get him.
pegged.
No. Like, I don't know if you read the sci-fi books. Like, I was setting up, I did that whole race that have no women. I'm like, let's do reverse harem. And at first he was kind of like, ugh.
No, I wasn't. I was more like.
You were, ugh. And you were not. You were like, I don't want to.
But now I'm like, but to be
But
honest,
now you've been warming up to the idea of getting to write multiple men in a book.
but and that was like one of the big things that I don't really want to do. It was because I'm writing multiple men, and I don't know how to separate multiple men
think-
like personalities and have
Their
that many different
voices?
personalities at one time. Yeah, have their own unique voice. Because if you've read The Disciples, each of the guys has a unique voice.
Right.
I think your complaint at the time when I first brought it up back when we were writing the sci-fi is
For
that
fighting.
how the guys that you write are so possessive.
They are. They
that how would
100% are.
you reconcile 2 extremely possessive guys just not killing each other?
or 3 or 4 or 5. I mean, let's be honest. You had 4 in the last book, I think, in your reverse harem. And look, if I could wrap my mind around sharing you with another guy, I couldn't fucking wrap around 2 more. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
And again, it's fantasy. It's escapism.
Because at one point or another, I'm going to end up being in the hand instead of the hole, and that's not cool for me. I don't want to share with you with 2 more guys.
So when you're writing as it's me.
Every time.
Yeah, I forgot about
Aw.
that. he's literally role playing.
Have you?
Oh,
Well,
that's kind of cool.
let me.
That's
Okay.
actually cool.
Have you read our Royal Bastards the Broken Wings?
Yeah, I
Have
have.
you read the book?
I have.
Okay.
I
Do
specifically
you
hadn't
remember?
read any of the other ones, and I read that one because y'all wrote it.
We didn't count that one. We're
We
counting. We
did son
forgot
of a
about
biscuit.
it.
So that's like a
We
20 or
forgot I
so.
read that book.
Okay, so there was a specific scene that we had in there that I wrote from my point of view. I think you might remember. And then the next day, in that he was driving home,
You, um,
and in a
it's
very
really
bumpy
strange.
car ride home. Do you remember that part? I'm not sure how deep I could go into this scene without really throwing out your readers off.
Oh well, yeah, they're here for it. They don't care. They don't like it. There's a door, and they can
Okay,
feel
so
free to
during
exit.
the anal scene, do you remember like
Oh my gosh.
that was our first anal popping cherry of in a book. We were like, we finally popped that cherry and was like, hey, we're gonna put it in a book. And of course, it had to be from my side because you had to have that dominance, and she's definitely going to be
Right.
dominating. Well, that was that might have been kind of true to life, but the van scene wasn't, where we drove back, in the very bumpy road on the way home that night or morning afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
there.
was your dream of something you wanted to do to me, isn't it?
Oh, I did. Oh, I still do. I just want to ensure your life is so joyful with Mary to me. I heart you too, baby. We're sending little heart symbols at each other with our hands.
Oh.
But although I'll tell you, when it comes to our books, I think that was one of our closer to how we act to each other. Somewhat antagonistic.
Oh, when they got comfortable with each other.
Yeah, with their personalities. That's one of the closer ones we've had.
It's hard not to bring our own personal relationship in.
That's
Right.
why.
And things that we've done, there's all kinds of elements. Like, I think my biggest one was that moment in Trapping Sophia, where Sophia's like, I want you to lay on me. And he was confused.
Oh yeah, that was
And
good.
that was something that I was having Sean do a lot to me lately. It's like just your weight.
Yeah, it was very much a just lay on me. And I'm like, I'm going to crush you. I'm no longer the skinny boy you dated when you were 16 and I was 18. I'm now a dad bod. This isn't going to feel really great laying on top of you. She's like, smother me, and I'm like, like that typical, like you would think like the person's just laying spread eagle. She's like, smother me.
Well, and I have a weighted blanket for that, because
Yeah,
Some people weighted blankets.
if I
was
didn't
the
have a
weighted
weighted
blanket.
blanket, I wouldn't have any hugs ever. So,
Aww.
by the way, there's
Well,
their website. I just posted it in the chat because I see Melanie is like, well, I'm looking up their books.
Kind of like the whole, weighted blanket or the big fat sweaty husband. Which one's probably more comfortable at that point?
Well, at least
No,
they wrote James wasn't sweaty.
That's true. That's very fair.
well, I
Because
can
he
assume
was,
that
but he's
putting
hot.
your own personalities and perspectives. I mean, that makes sense, right? It makes sense to put that into the characters that you're
Yeah.
writing, even if it's subtle, right? It's a little bit subtle. Maybe it's not obvious, like this. It's just you with a different name, literally. Like it's not literal. Like everything you do and every quirk you have is in there, but still, it's coming from you, right? So, of
Yeah.
course, it's going to have some of your mannerisms, the way you speak, the way you think of things. Some people, I guess, are out there that can potentially completely compartmentalize, and who fucking ray for them. That ain't me. I'm just saying, but it's
No,
all
we've never been able to compartmentalize ourselves away from our characters and say, "Oh, there's nothing bleeding through." I don't
Yeah.
think there's
But here's the
ever
thing.
been one.
That's what makes. I don't know how else to say this, and like, I say this. Everybody knows I say this all the time. I can't articulate it, but you'll get what I mean once I get to say it. Okay, so makes y'all recognizable as your body of art, right? Your catalog of books is recognizable because there is an underlying voice that is uniquely
Yeah.
right.
That makes me feel better.
Yeah.
That-
You find your voice for sure. And it's just, it doesn't really change.
Sometimes it
I
takes a
think-
while to get there.
Yeah, I always find it interesting when people read our books and some of them don't realize that it's written by two different people.
See,
that's one of the harder things to get through is that, hey, there's actually, once they realize there's an actual male reading it or writing those sides, they're like, oh, it makes much more sense.
Yeah, it's always fascinating to me, yeah, when they find out you're male, but that it's not too different because his voice is so different than mine to me. Like when I read his stuff, it just reads differently than the way mine reads. And it gets weird in editing because I have to remember not to edit him into my voice.
that makes sense.
But, yeah. And I think that's, these authors that do so many genres, people just love their voice, so they'll read whatever they write, whatever genre, even that isn't, just because just the way it ends up being. Like I could never. I just feel like, and I think that's a thing too with our books, is because it's two different voices. Sometimes when you read books, when it's written by one author doing dual point of view, both point of views kind of sound the same.
That's an absolute fact. And then also when you have a collab, when you have, like 4 different authors. I'm not talking about you guys. I kind of see y'all as one, so because you guys are so cohesive together. But I'm saying like when you get like, hey, we're gonna pick you, and then we're gonna go with you, and it's gonna be like this all collab, and we're gonna do this book, and then you see it kind of is. Sometimes it can get real choppy, or you are like, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense, or or when 2 people write it, or 1 person writes it, and then suddenly there's like a second person on it, like for the sequel, and it's like it doesn't sound the same, which sounds weird because it's a book. Like, how does it not sound the same? Well, it does. It's different.
How did someone like how did one of the characters all of a sudden become aristocratic in their mannerisms and their speaking, or something? That kind of where you're at, or
well, it's not just that. It's how it's even the phrasing that people.
Mm-hmm.
It's an underlying tone. So, for me personally, when I read a book, and I don't care how fast I can read a book, I still catch the tone. Especially in a series, you get through a couple books, kind of get it, right? And that's how when you open a book and you don't know if you've already read it, you can catch. Oh, wait a minute. This, it reminds you. It hits that back of your head. You're like, this deja vu. I think I've seen this, right? There's just an underlying tone. It's a voice that all, in my opinion, this is just that all authors have, especially ones that I have personally read, like a series. I can see it that cross across in all the books. It's the way they write. It's the terminologies that they use. Like you can't sit there and put, what is it? You can't use feminine wiles as the thing that I can smell your pussy. Like you can't use that every single time you mention that. It's called your feminine wiles. It's not my feminine fucking wiles. And saying it 85 times in the book does not change it over 5 different books. That's like math I don't want to do. It's too much. So it's that kind of thing. There's little quirks, mannerisms, and there is an underlying voice or tone that authors have when you write. It's that simple.
Yeah.
And that's how you can recognize certain authors when you're like, wait a minute, who writes this? And just by, if it's a Dean Koontz book, you can tell. You can tell if it's a Stephen King book. Yeah. Even if it's a different subject, with different characters, a different scenario, that tone is still there. The writing style's still there. So that's what I'm talking about.
The atmosphere. There's a lot of atmosphere with specific authors. So I think even like, do you know who? Me and Carver have a really good friend named B.T. Urella. Maybe not know him. He's also a romance author, and like you would read his books, and you could instantly read the atmosphere. He's one of my favorite, male romance authors, just because the world he can create is just fantastic.
Because honestly, I've read.
Yeah, he was in the romance and erotica frat guy, or Golden. Sarah's Mac. He's also another one of my.
I know him. I do know him.
I love Golden.
His dang pictures, man. All these
Oh yeah,
pictures.
his pictures. Yeah,
He's a fantastic photographer.
No,
he
he's an
is.
He's one
amazing
of my
photographer.
favorite people. He's just as genuine in person as he is online.
No, he
Yeah,
seems
he's.
that way. I've spoken to him a couple of times offhand, like a couple years ago. It hasn't been recently. When I followed some of his stuff, when I don't, you probably, whenever he posted the Mario outfit,
Oh god.
Yeah.
that's when I had talked to him once or twice. I just had to tell him how great I thought that was, and he responded to me. So we talked back and forth a couple times. There's some stuff I can't remember what it was called, but yeah, he was totally a cool person. But I would love to go through all of his photos. It was just ridiculous.
Go through all his photos.
Well,
I
no,
mean, the
like
man.
his
He's
photography
truly.
photos, not
He's.
necessarily his photos. It's not like I wasn't
Well,
like
have you seen?
stalking.
I'm gonna have to ask now. Have you seen his calendar? His specific calendar.
I don't think I have actually. No,
Okay, you haven't seen June then. Okay, never mind.
which is my
Trust me.
birthday month. Like,
Is it? It would be a very interesting month for you to look at. I'll just throw that out there.
I will have
I
to
love.
actually look him up again after I have him. He's still on my friends list on Facebook, so I gotta.
You have to understand. I love Golden. He's like a bigger brother to me in a way, but he's also like one of my best friends. He's very. What would be the word to use to describe him best? It's like he's very ethical. So when I have big things like, oh, got a question for you. How would am I allowed to go punch this person in the face, or do I need to look out, for liability, and is that ethical? And he's like, no, you can't go punch fellow authors and stuff like that. I'm only using that as an example, not that I have or would want to, ever.
That's a
I'm a
common
good.
question.
I mean, yeah, no,
Can I first
no,
name, last name them? In a
no.
book, in a book, and kill them is that
Oh well,
okay?
yeah. I mean, you kind of can, but I would think you don't have any similarities to what they actually look like.
Yeah,
That's
there's that
just
disclaimer in the front of like every book, like this doesn't represent actual people,
yeah.
just to cover you, even if it.
Even if it kind of sort of does. Great Aunt
Even if we
Myrtle.
are
You pinched
Great
my
Aunt Myrtle.
cheeks. I couldn't stand her. She's the first
She
one
really
to
had,
kick the bucket.
she really had to go down on a flaming cross or
You
burned at
killed
the
my Aunt
stake.
Myrtle.
Oh gosh.
Everybody's like, good. I mean, oh yeah, aw. It's so sad.
Oops! Oh no, I'm so sorry. That's sad, tragic.
But see, the whole point is that some people, don't get me wrong, I seek out the romance genre, let's just say, especially, like I said, the triggers and the taboo, all those kinds, especially triggers. Those are my things. I like that, the dark, like control issues and little possessive guys and unapologetic and all that. I love that. So I go seek that out because, of course, yeah, like the sex scenes, like, cool, right? That's awesome.
Yep.
However, that's not all it's about.
No.
Which is what, like I keep saying, when you guys develop the characters, it's really cool to get those, especially when they interact with each other. I do think it's funny because when you read a series, right, it's like you have like ducks
Oh yeah.
sitting on the fence, and you're like, pew, pew, one after another, boom, you went down, you met a girl, boom, you went down, you met a girl. Like, just I wonder who's next, boom, got him. Because all the guys are like, "What's your problem, man? Why you ditching us for this chick, man? What's going on?" And then it's their turn. Like, "Oh, we are in
Yeah.
love."
It does.
It's
They're
like
at the all the other guys are at the bar,
it's like one of those fairground games, where you're shooting those Queepy dolls, and you're shooting each one, and you're like, bink, bink,
Yep.
and the whole cursing, where they cursed each other. That was my favorite
And there
part.
comes Sean with a hammer that comes running by, ha ha, and like just smashes one of them and kills them all.
You're the next married person, or you're gonna die next. But just to be fair, if they have their own book, they're safe. Maybe.
Right.
They are. I've said, okay, when it gets into our characters, since Sean's a little trigger happy, I have stated to reassure everybody that if they have a book, if their book has been written and published, they are safe. So technically, like, Jude's not necessarily safe right now.
Oh, and you know what? The
Uh,
the next writer or the next person in our reader group that goes and says, oh, Sean likes to kill everybody.
You're gonna off Jude.
Jude. Okay, I'm just I'm gonna send him a message like, hey, Jude hasn't got a book yet. Guess what you just caused? This is your fault. You got this person
Kill the main
killed.
character.
No,
How do you feel?
we love
How
our
do you feel now?
readers.
I just
We love
waggle my
them.
finger at him.
We would not do that to them.
We wouldn't.
But you talk about how you like to read a lot and you're definitely into dark and you're into triggers and you're trying to find new books like that. And it's very interesting because I think one of the reasons that people like us that read a lot of romance, because I always consider myself a reader first, even though I'm a writer, and I like to write romance. It's because with romance, unlike a lot of other books, it has to end in a happily ever after. It has to, or it's not technically a romance. So we always, no matter what's going on, we know that there's going to be either a happily ever after or happily for now. And it makes it easier to, like, especially when you need to escape and you don't, and yeah, maybe the book will make you cry at stuff at some point, but in the end, it's going to get there and give you that happy glow.
Right. It's like,
And
So we're not doing the whole, there's a specific male author who doesn't give you that happy. And he's a huge
he's
one.
technically not romance. He's not
No.
romance. He's even said that he's not romance. Nicholas Sparks, he writes
Yeah.
love stories. And love, and they're very real, and they're realistic, and real life love is hard and doesn't always end happily ever after. But in a romance book, in your entertainment escapism, I think a lot of us are drawn to it is because it ends in a happily ever after. We get that happily ever after. And then you talk about how you're looking for more dark and trigger books. The thing is, dark romance is getting a lot of pushback right now. All over TikTok, like, since TikTok became like a thing and got big, it's fantastic because we have reached so many authors are reaching readers and so many people are starting to read from seeing on that. It gets grown, the book community on there. Then you have instances of, like, dark romance getting a lot of pushback from that. Amazon itself can be hard when you have to be careful as a romance author. See, and there's kind of like a double standard here. Like, I'm not going to say specifics, but, like, there's certain, like, huge, gigantic authors that might be gigantic horror authors that can write some really awful stuff in their books. And that's okay. Amazon accepts that and will sell that, mass sell it. But if you're writing romance, there is a line you have to be careful of, and Amazon won't necessarily let you know where that line is. Now, certain things authors know, yeah, my book's going to get banned straight off, especially with the very taboo stuff. You know it's going to get banned just because you've seen it happen a couple of times. But then, certain things you're like, why did Amazon ban this book? And they're very hard on romance authors. You have to be very careful. I was a little afraid, I don't even want to say it, that our new book would potentially...
Don't jinx us, jeez.
I know, get
God,
banned.
what are you doing, woman? Don't say this.
we'll fight.
Because when I first started writing, I started as a short story erotica author and got involved in the erotica author communities, and they're the nicest people you would ever meet, writing the dirtiest, filthiest stuff, so nice and welcoming, and want everybody else to write dirty, filthy stuff too, and give you a list, like, don't do this, Amazon bans this. There's things, like, you have to be careful with, like, supposed mind control. And
Right.
there's something in the new book that I thought could be looked at that as that, and I was a little afraid.
Well, I can't
mind
I can't
control.
think of the term because there's something that see, I'm gonna screw up the term. Like, it's all about consent. It's all about the like the, not dubious consent, but like the implied, like where no,
There
but,
are
but then they go
tons of
into
books
their
with
head and they're like,
pure
but I really want
non-consent.
it anyway. Like, they're in their head and they're saying, yes, please,
That's-
please. But
That's
then,
dubious consent. So that's dubious consent. Dubious consent is where she is reluctant she wants to, but usually either she knows she's not supposed to, like I just met this guy,
Right.
or something else telling her that she shouldn't, so she's telling him no, but she really wants it. That's considered dubious consent. Because in her head
Right.
and in her body, non-consent is she saying no, she does not want, and he still anyway. That's pure.
Gotcha.
And there's a ton of non-consent. Like, non-consent does not seem to be an issue for Amazon.
Yeah, I was gonna say that I
It's
don't think that that's actually an issue. I thought that would be the biggest thing. I thought that's what would
yeah,
be
you
the
would, but
catalyst to get something taken off or not, because, you know. But
yeah,
I've seen some
non-consent doesn't seem to be a problem, but there's issues again with the taboo. So not as many authors are going to write it. And then you have issues with like monster romance has become so huge.
Right.
I love monster romance, but you have to be careful because readers don't know the rules either. Like readers are asking, you know, I'm in monster groups, readers asking, like, I want him to be in wolf form. You can't.
Right.
Like,
Right,
if
right,
they're
exactly.
werewolves, they have to be in human form, or it's considered, you know.
Right.
And then certain monsters, you never know what monster Amazon's gonna be like, okay, no, this monster's too much like an animal banned book and things like that. There's these, and Amazon just they'll never tell you what the actual line is. They say you violated our content rule, you try to ask
Do you think
specifics.
do you think it's like YouTube where, okay, so
It's arbitrary.
I'm really involved in the
It's
YouTube community and like the content creators, and like they do live reactions, they do stuff like that, right? So there's certain things, and one of the big things is you failed for like a copyright claim because they do reactions to like music videos, right? So they're sitting there watching it with you, and they've never seen it, and so it's kind of fun, like you get to live vicariously through. But then those videos, some of them aren't copyrighted, and some of them are, or some of them allow it and will remove copyright, some won't. And some are bad enough that they'll get your whole stream taken down, right? Like this live, it would just suddenly poof and be gone. And, you know, someone says, oh, well, you violated blah, blah, blah. It's copyright claim. There's also something called, you know, the strikes. So the strikes are for generally people, not, it could be a warning first, but people report people. Like they're like, oh, you didn't want to do my song, and everybody else is paying, like, you know, because there's 85 requests, so, you know, payment gets priority. Sorry, not sorry. But you didn't do mine, and I'm mad at you because I spammed your chat, and I got timed out, and nobody wants to see me spamming 85 times. I'm gonna hit the button and report you to YouTube 50 times on 5 different names, and all of a sudden the stream gets taken down. They get a strike. You see what I mean? Like where someone's like, oh, I'm personally offended, and so then they go and report it, and then that is what triggers Amazon, or did you Amazon actually?
No, it's it is different with Amazon. I think it does. It might I don't know. It might get reported to Amazon, but I think it might get reported to where they review and they determine. But with Amazon, there's no strikes. There's no warning. There's no nothing. One day, you have all your books published. The next, you're all unpublished, and they won't even tell you specifically why. And they've ruined a lot of people doing that. So it gets scary as an author because you don't get a warning. You don't get told exactly what you did wrong. You can lose your whole account, your income. The thing with, there's other retailers. There's, you know, Barnes & Noble, there's Kobo, there's Apple. But for the majority of authors, even when they're spread out wide like that, they make the majority 70% of their income through Amazon. So you do not want to lose Amazon. So anybody that's been writing, you have to be careful. And even when you're careful, I know that it gets scary as an author because especially when this is how you make your living. Like a couple years ago, maybe it was 4 years ago, they banned several authors, and those authors have not been able to get back on Amazon. They lost everything. Like everything.
I know it's a different platform, but I'm saying, like, I've known people have their whole entire channel deleted, hundreds of videos, just because all of a sudden they're like violated content and poof, and they're gone. And it's like, wait, what happened? You know, just random things. So I get what you're saying from a different context. Obviously, I'm not an author, so I haven't tried it in that respect. But I can understand that because We say it all the time on these platforms. But
I think it really limits people because
It's
again,
scary.
you want more dark books, taboo books, and trigger books. You're looking for that, and there's a lack because it's a risk. It is a
Right.
risk to write dark, and you're getting pushback every once in a while from like book talk communities are pushing back against it and stuff, and people have to get up and defend why. Where you don't see people have to get up and defend why they like Stephen King books.
right.
You don't get people, and that's another thing you counter too is like a romance author is judged. Like, oh,
Yeah.
you write dirty books. What kind of person are you? But you don't see people like judging like Stephen King and be like, oh, you write some messed up stuff. You must be messed up. No,
Right.
I don't do that in a lot, and I think it's just a fine line, and content is being limited because you have to take a big risk to write dark, and
Which I get.
sometimes
Because people can go way too far. In
you
my
can
personal
go
opinion,
too
I
far.
have limits too. I have very big hardcore limits where I'm like that no, and I think that I don't necessarily like. That's that fine line between like the freedom of speech. You can speak about whatever you want to. You can say, write, do whatever you want. But on the flip side, should you? Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Like there's certain
Yeah.
subject or content matter that I think personally I'm not for. And trust me, I go super far. So if there's something that not offends, but like I'm like, ugh. If it does it to me, it's pretty hardcore. Like
Oh,
hardcore, right? So my point is that just because you can, should you? And I understand that people want to write what they want to write, and that's great. However, there's that whole, then you get into the, regulate it, yet, well, they shouldn't regulate it, but yet, if they don't, and then I'm halfway into a book and I'm like, ah, of course I can close the book, right? But I wish I could warn the next person, like, warn a bitch. Like, that was,
yeah.
whoa.
Yeah.
Well, that's why trigger warnings are becoming such a big thing now, and I think for a lot of
I
things
like
like
those. Those are my
that,
keywords.
yeah.
Those are my squicks. I don't like trigger warnings, but
No,
But
I like the hashtags, like, because then I'm like, okay, cool. Do it.
it's both a good thing and kind of a bad thing because I always feel as a reader who's been reading since how old that reading was always risky. You never knew what
Right.
was going to happen in a book. And when you kind of put trigger warnings, you're kind of giving it away. But for especially dark romance, for
Right.
certain
you kind
things.
of get it. Yeah. There's certain things like,
See,
well,
And
So-
that's why before trigger warnings, when I was writing the Disciples, if you notice, we kind of always try to do something like dark and messed up right in the beginning, so readers don't pick up this book, start reading. Maybe they get the wrong idea that it's going to be like not as dark as it is, and then they start getting into it and they get upset. It's almost like the turn back sign. The first chapter is usually like the turn back now if you can't take it. It's that warning
No, I
right
got you.
there.
I think we've always done that because of what a project I'm working on now. I had to go back and reread something I had wrote previously, and I was looking at it. I'm like, damn, we really let that thought even came to me was we really put it out there right there.
Yeah, you have to. We had to back then because, of course, Lily and stuff came out before trigger warnings, and now it's like how to determine how many is dirt. I think mostly with the Disciples, I did have some readers read through it. I'm like, what triggers should we do? And we decided dark romance. Right now, it's just trigger enough. When you see the words dark romance, things are going to happen. But I personally feel unless you're doing something really extreme and messed up, that you don't necessarily need triggers for it. There's
Right.
obviously no non-consent or anything in the books. It's all dubious consent, which is hand in hand with dark romance. Dark romance pretty much means dubious consent or non-consent. And, we always told everybody, women, children, animals are safe. You don't have to worry about us doing something like that just for the shock of it.
Right.
No, we could so easily do so many things just for the shock of it. We don't. That's why I say they're kind of like safe-ish. We've had lots of people tell us like safe dark romance where you don't have to worry about reading a character going through abuse, getting attacked, extensive, detailed things like that.
Right.
There's no cheating. That was my. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
And there's a certain character everybody wants that we've seen has gone through terrible stuff. Now it's like, I can't write her. You saw what she went through. She's gonna have that in her head.
Yeah.
Now I'm writing that character.
No, I get it. I get it because, and that is,
Yeah.
that's 100% hands down you guys' discretion. That is your choice, how you want to approach what you're doing. It's that simple. And I mean, there are people that, I don't know if it's just like, and it doesn't matter why. People like what they like for whatever they like it for. It doesn't matter why. It doesn't matter what they're going for, what they want to see or read. But the way that you guys want to write is absolutely your. And if you're like, look, these are my hard lines, whether people know them or not, well, we know now, but like, these are my hard lines. This is never going to happen, right? You can kind of, like, that's another tone thing. You can kind of get that from the way that you guys write, that's not really going to happen. Not going to be those hard lines being, but it's your prerogative. You don't have to go all the way, down the street around the corner and go into Hookerville and like go do some crazy shit on like the traffic section. Like, you don't have to do that just because people assume you might. Like, that's not how that works. So it's actually, to be honest, it actually makes me respect more that you have those lines, that you've decided this is where my lines are. This is where we won't cross, and everybody just kind of knows, and that's awesome to me.
I think it's mainly too. It's not necessarily done. It is done for the readers in a way, but for my own sanity. Because when we write first person, we try to be as immersive as possible. Like when we write, or at least when I write, I'm like in my character's head. I'm going through what my character is going through. There are certain things I do not want to go through. I'm sorry. So I think that's mainly why we do it. Whereas I read those books, I just don't want to write them.
No, absolutely. And there's some people that they want that danger, like a dark romance, like that danger, like that possessiveness, that super alpha male, the spunky yet caring, gets taken care of female, or just feisty, you know what I'm saying? Like, they want that, and they want like the dynamic, and they want like the drama, and they want all of that, but there's just only so far they can really go, or they're not ready to dive into some of the shit I'm sure that y'all have seen, that I see, that I read, they're just not ready for that, or maybe it's just not their cup of tea.
I read dark. I love really dark stuff that goes there. It's just when you're writing it, it takes so much longer, so you're in that place for so long. Sometimes it gets bad in the disciples for me. I'm in these the characters are in certain situations, and it's taken me, and they're going through so much trauma in certain ways, and it's like, oh God, I want to get her out of this so I can get out of this.
It's like you want to go and look at a bunch of kittens playing with a ball of string afterwards, because you get to that deep, dark, very gritty, very painful place. And as her co-author, it's awful to watch her do.
Yeah, you don't have to love her. Do you?
Well, no.
Not in the same vein.
There are things I've written that I've absolutely cried about, but no.
That's different, yeah. The sad stuff. He makes me. He's funny. I don't think I could ever write something to make someone else cry, but he can write something that makes me cry. He's made me cry in like 3 books. I was like, you suck.
Oh, but you don't take it out. You leave it in.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's good.
So it's good. That made me cry.
Like, can't you just be a shit writer when you're doing something that's gonna make me cry? Can I just cry about your writing style for once instead of like the actual?
Oh no, there's plenty of that. Trust me, there's plenty of that. I'm the world's worst writer. She can freely admit that
let's
my
not even get
auditing
on that
editing
train
is
right now.
awful. No, because I mean, but let's be honest, she's the better 3/4 of this partnership.
Well, I mean,
She really is.
women usually are.
We do not want to have this fight right now because he thinks he's an awful writer and I think he's my favorite, and I think I'm an awful writer and he likes my favorite, and that's why we keep writing for each other.
Yeah. I think she's the greatest I've ever read. So
I mean, it's really cute. Though.
Yeah.
It's like that's like hashtag goals dynamic, right?
Sure.
maybe. I mean, it's really, to be honest, it's more damaging to each other because we're like, I hate myself, but God, you're amazing. we're masochists against ourselves. It's just awful. I don't know how to describe it. We're masochists that love each other.
No, I love what you guys do. I love the dynamics of your characters. Your characters are honestly like they're not a stick figure walking around. They're actually people. They have a personality, they have depth. Like you can bite a chunk out of them, they're a person. Versus just being on a board somewhere where it's like, dude, blonde, cool, let's go. Like they're 3D versus 2D, I guess is how I'm trying to put it. And
I think a lot of that is
them.
Yeah, it's thanks to playing so much Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes, let's go.
Where you spend like 2 or 3 hours developing your
investing into these characters. You don't want them to die and then they die. You put a lot of love in your characters.
I have in like my bio like that we started, that we attribute like our early role playing days, as
People
helping
take
us
that
write, and
so
they take it as
differently.
like bedroom role playing.
It's like, no, we're rolling dice, people, and pencil and paper
Dungeons
here.
and Dragons. We would play. Yeah, we did like muds and mushes and stuff, role playing text games where you make characters and stuff, and we would do so much of that.
That was on World of Warcraft
together,
and like the role playing servers, and also Forsaken World when World of Warcraft was expensive, but Forsaken World was amazing, right? And you really get into it. That's like who you are. I mean, hell, I'm on YouTube.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I'm a person now.
So that.
But no, that's awesome.
So.
But did you ever do it like live? Like, you see in movies and stuff where they go out there like, thou dost protestest too much.
No, we never hit that point. We never hit that point, but I had been around it when they have, and it was always fascinating to me because I'm like,
club that we met in back
Anya's
in
a D&D lover. She loves D&D.
It's fantastic.
Never know.
Yeah, I mean, we'd play with all our friends, but I think we would definitely make characters that would play off of each other, and that's all we would do the whole time was our two characters.
And torturing each other.
Reverse harem with the ice mage, the orc, and the like.
Oh God!
I really like orc romance. I didn't think I would, but all this orc romance is coming out, and it's so good. Like
with their horned faces and their.
But I prefer like thinking of like the World of Warcraft type orcs. They were kind of hot.
I like turning people into sheep. That was fun.
That was amazing to do. Except
really
I could. We'd have rage fights with each other, me and Izzy, because I was an awful anything that could use magic, except a hunter and maybe a paladin. That and a rogue. Those are my kind of specials.
Right.
I beg your pardon.
I ended up being a raid leader. I was a raid leader on WoW, so I'll 20 people. I'm yelling at my husband the most. Like, stop pulling aggro. Stop it.
Oh my God.
And then when he's on his paladin, I'm like, you need to make more aggro. You're tanky. What are you doing?
See, all these terms I understand. I was always like a druid, like a balanced druid. That's what I was.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't like being the tank. I liked the DPS where I would just decimate. It was all my raid gear, just, and then you some life happens, and you me personally like get away from that. My kids, I'm like, God, I actually have to take care of my kids now. I can't play anymore. Damn it. And so you fall away from it. And then I missed my, at the time, the highest level you get was 70. I missed my level 70 character named Nympho, by the way, was my character's name. So.
See, I took a break from WoW. We had a falling out with our guild. And when I took a break from WoW, I got pregnant. I was like, I should have stopped playing. And then I came back and I tried to play pregnant and it didn't work. So that's
funny.
If I didn't stop playing WoW, I probably would have got pregnant.
This is another thing I say all the time. There's a reason people are like, well, why are you fat? Well, the reason I'm big, I blame it on my children, because every time I got a gym membership and enrolled in college, I got pregnant. So I've tried 3 times. I have 3 student loans. I'm still fucking paying off, and no goddamn degree because I got pregnant each time.
Do not go near the gym. Do not. Don't even try by it.
And I'm like, I'm not going on the treadmill. I'm not going, I'm not going to yoga class.
It super fertilizes you.
Like,
Oh
I'm
my
not
God.
even with anybody, so I would actually fucking bring it, because then I'll be a billionaire, y'all. Because
You have immaculate conception. Yes. Like, darn it, shouldn't have used that hand soap in the public bathroom.
Ew. Ew.
Wolf says proof. No, wow, you get laid.
Good. Just gotta...
Darn it, I got pregnant. I should have stopped reading.
Oh my God.
We had too much time on our hands. I didn't have to farm for everything.
As soon as you
And we're
stop
like,
farming,
maybe we can get this kid to grow up fast and we'll teach the kid to farm for But by then,
like the Japanese back rooms where they're like farming for gold.
I'm like, hey, this one's not farming enough. Time to pop a third out.
No, that's the thing. My daughter, my 8-year-old especially, like, she's like Roblox and Minecraft all the time, all day, every day.
Oh,
yeah.
same here.
If I could get her involved in that, I could make some money.
Yeah, right? Here, buddy, go grind this character up for me real quick. Thank you.
There was nothing better than the moment that you could actually trigger on the auto grind feature. Remember when you had to make your own mods? Well, they don't now. I found that out because I tried to log in like a year. I have to download 85 different mod things to get
right.
all my, like, we had all those little overlays and all this cool
Oh,
stuff.
it takes so long setting it up so it looked cool.
Now it's integrated, and it's like, well, shit, that was half the. But
Yeah.
But now,
For you intelligent people, for morons like me, all those mods confuse the hell out of me. Just saying.
I'm the thing that, like, I get it's the same as like.
All of a sudden, the guy goes quiet because they don't want to admit that they were a moron like me.
That's
Thanks.
why you played a hunter.
I said it and
There
forgot
was a
it.
name for hunters, and yes, I lived up to that name.
You
There you
ever
go.
like what is it, the stabby people that was so sneaky?
Rogue.
A rogue.
Fuck those characters.
Yes, I
could
was.
never do
I
that
enjoyed
crap,
those.
Ever.
I was good at the rogue.
I was a warlock and I was a
Disc priest.
I did
Discipline
healing
priest.
priest too. But yeah, for PvP, I was the disc priest back then. So I had, with the priests especially, I had just everybody's health bars. And it was just a game of clicking. It was like, how fast can you click? And that's all healing was. How fast could you click for
It's
people?
the same with the balancer, because you literally go in like the AoEs and stuff, and you do them in order, and you don't you train yourself. Your brain just knows it takes this, then push this, and you don't even have to think about the countdown anymore, because you just know 1 breath, 2 breath, push that, 1 breath, push that, 1 breath, push that. That one's gonna be over. Go over there.
You could heal in your raid in your sleep.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, man.
Oh.
No, I don't miss it because, man, that was a time
miss
sink.
the old days. I miss all my friends I had. We had so much fun. It's not the
Same here.
same now.
I know, it's not even close. Like, if I could bring them back, like, I actually am still friends with a couple people.
There too.
And we were just the closest things ever. And it was just I had so much fun. But I was like working about wasn't. So he got to like he would go way past me and do all this stuff, and I'd be like left.
Ugh.
Yeah, it was like it's like watching a show in front of you and like skipping episodes, and you're like, "What the hell?" I come
Yeah.
back and you're 6 episodes in.
That's cheating.
Right?
It is cheating. We consider
We're
that
not
cheating.
allowed to do that.
We consider that cheating in our house.
Like you turn
Just
it on
say it.
time, click the button, 1,
Betrayal.
2, 3, click. You don't get any more playtime than I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a deep, like, seated a betrayal in this family here.
No, it really is. And then people that don't get it, then they're just narcissistic bastards. That's all. I'm just curious, what do you guys have coming down? Is there anything coming down the pike, like in the next 6 months, year or so, that you guys are doing? Anything fun? Do you have any like
Okay.
conferences? Where would they find that info?
Well, I've only talked about in the reader group a little bit. Right now, we're working on the next Disciples book and some Disciples short stories. The short stories will probably be out first. We have one more signing this year. We will be in Shameless BookCon down in Orlando, Florida. It is the last Shameless BookCon. It's in November. It's very sad. This is a fantastic book convention, book signing. This
It
is
was
the
kind of
first
breaking our hearts
signing
about it.
we ever did. Like, we probably wouldn't do signings if it wasn't for them, because they actually, when you're an author, you're supposed, like, people that want to do signings, you sign up with the signing, you put an interest form and stuff. They approached us.
Wow.
Yeah, they started this, the first year we did it, they did this great new thing where they took newer authors
The author
and put this
spotlight.
in, put them in a showcase before the big signing the next day with like bigger, more established authors, and they invited us to that. Me, I was perfectly happy, you know, writing without anybody knowing who I was or what I looked like. I'm very introverted. But Sean really, really wanted to do the signing, so we decided to do it, and we had so much fun. That's when we really started trying to do like 3 or 4 signings a year, try to get around. It always blows our minds that people actually come up to our table and want to talk to us.
Yeah, I mean, you know, like even when Kat messaged me, I'm thinking, you know, I still always have this feeling of it's just some little old lady's computer stuck in Siberia with the buy button stuck on our books. And it's just stuck, and it's not that she wants to, and it's racking up this monumental amount of debt for her life. But that's how our books are getting sold. So when someone says,
a
"Hey,
mistake.
I've read your stuff," or freaks out about us, we're like, "Whoa, no, this is wrong. This is weird."
Reality has shifted to somewhere we are unfamiliar with.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing.
But
Is
yeah.
that there's a level that you actually books are really, really special to people, especially when, and I'll tell you guys, like, especially the Disciple series, and there's also, Izzy, you might have heard of it, the Havoc series for me, and I just had a brain fart and forgot who wrote that, but anyway, are like some of my most favorite series out there, and the ones that are the King, those series. Okay, obviously I like, anyway. So those, your guys are up there, but I've actually followed you longer. I've been interested. I've seen your stuff longer. I own on Kindle all of the books, and I went and bought, just in case we were on camera, I went and bought a book so I could hold it and be like, look, I have a book.
Oh my God.
I literally did that because I was like,
Thank
well,
you for that.
I feel
Truly,
like an
thank you.
asshole because I had them all on Kindle and I actually bought them. They're not just downloaded, like borrowed or whatever. I actually bought them. But then I'm like, well, what the hell if Kindle goes down? How am I going to read them? Like,
That's my
we will
biggest
find a
fear in the
way.
world.
oh, yeah.
Because that is one of my biggest fears. If my phone goes down and I can't get to my Kindle account, that's where all my books are.
But see, that's
Even
the thing.
paid and unpaid.
I have an entire, like I told you, that my fun little shelf. What I do is I go, here's my secret, y'all. And I did this a long time ago, and I haven't done it in like 15. I used to have like probably 700-800 books in my house before I had to like leave them all behind, like 2015. So here's what I did. I went to half price books. What they'll do is they'll take all the junky books, yay, bodice rippers, right? And they'll throw them all into like genre specific bundles. So for $10, you get like 30 to 50 books. I'm like, paperbacks, bet. Buy that one, buy that one. Every time I go in there, I'm like, oh, I have duplicates, and I go donate them to the library. Like, that's what I did. And so I had all these books.
Yeah.
When this happened, I happened to find a sci-fi one when I took books. You know, it's right behind me. I'm like looking, I'm staring at it like you can, I'm gesturing like you can see it, like it's right there. But then I think I have physical copy CDs because it's like if I really like music, I want a physical copy because I'm from the 90s, y'all. Like, come on now.
Yeah.
You know better. Okay?
So I'm from the 80s, and you knew you had to have an extra copy because that stuff would it could get ripped and destroyed. And now, like, all my favorite bands,
What
I
if the
can't find
internet
half their
goes
music.
They're
Internet
not
crashes.
online.
Screwed. And I won't have any of my books. But no, that's what I'm saying. I just think you guys are up there for me, and you guys are one of the first ones. Like, I used to read tons when I was a kid, but in the last couple of years, got me kind of kickstarted me to get back into it and fall back in love with reading all the time. So it was a huge deal to be able to reach out, ask you guys to be first. You know, the first authors on the channel. If you notice, I don't know if you had a chance to see the intro, but we feature content creators, reactors, artists. I'm talking like, you know, rap artists, singing artists, whoever. Big, small, doesn't matter. And authors. Get to know
I thought that was the
people.
coolest thing, was just even hearing that someone wanted us to be on here to talk. Because, like, we do our Facebook Lives, but it's different. It really is.
It's small in our reader community.
And see, this
I
will be on the channel, and people can come from you guys, or they can come from my side. And I actually do get a lot of post podcast views. Generally, about if people don't know who you guys are, it's not as much as somebody like, oh my god, it's this person.
Yeah.
But it'll get like at least double or triple the amount of views after the fact. And then once I put it on Spotify, which I haven't figured out how to do, it's on my bucket list, then it'll be available there as well. So
That's fantastic.
And then you guys can always say, hey, you know, this was our first, and we went and talked, and you want to hear some information, until you get on one that you're like, well, that's cool. No, it's just getting to know people is amazing. And conversation is everything, and people.
Yeah. Well, there's some of us that are introverted and like avoid conversation.
Like
That's
the plague. That's you. Like
yeah,
the plague.
I do, because it's like, can I please have like an hour to sit down and think about what words I want to use? But like I'm as a reader though, because it's someone else who loves to read. I'm so happy that you did find us and that I did get you into reading. I think that's like my secret goal if I was a super villain, is to
get people into
all these
reading.
women addicted to
people,
all the things I like.
You
don't even have to get addicted to me.
I'm like, oh yeah, I'm reading books, and like, books. I'm like, don't knock it, don't try. And then I've got some of my peoples, right? My peoples, I'm like, they're like, hell yeah, you reading your books? Wink, wink. I'm like, fuck yeah, wink, wink. Damn right, wink, wink. You bet your ass. Like,
that's what I love about reader communities, because everybody, and everybody's so excited to talk about it there, because you can't really talk about it anywhere else because some people just don't get it.
Right.
And then when you go to a book signing, there's so many readers together, and everybody's, it's like you're with your tribe.
Yeah, that's true.
Your people.
And just to get the insight,
You found your crazies.
into how you guys.
That's how I looked at it.
It's obvious how your dynamic is. So when it gets down to the brass tacks and they're talking about Amazon, what Amazon will not allow, Izzy is up front. And then when it's math, it's Sean.
No. Don't put that hoodoo on me.
When someone's getting killed,
our 9-year-old can math.
It's Sean. And when some, brand new great idea is happening, it's Izzy. I got it.
Yes,
sure.
That works better.
Oh, see, and there's Wolf, and that's exactly, I appreciate that. By the way, Wolf he does all the graphics. He is a producer, he is a musician, he is an instrumentalist, really, really good friend, and he does all of our graphics,
Extremely
all of our promos.
talented.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Thank you, Wolf. We really appreciate all the work you and help you guys did for us to get on here. That was the coolest thing, was that you guys were like, here, get on here. We'll do everything. We're like, what?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I ask you. He does everything. No, but he says that's the part of what's great about this podcast. I think some people, introverts included, are more comfortable having the option of being on or off camera. And let me just tell y'all, I have a brand new camera. I'm super stoked, and it is unforgiving, so that means it's a good camera. I have a green screen sitting in its box still. It's like so when I move that, I can. And a ring light, which I don't know why I need to make myself any wider than I am. I'm not quite sure why my daughter got that for me, but hey, I've got it, right? But most people choose to be on voice only because I think it's more comfortable, and the ones that are on screen all the time, they get to kind of kick back and just like hang out, and the people that aren't used to it can just talk.
It's easier because when we're doing our lives, and I think Izzy would agree with me, we're literally sitting right next to each other at my computer desk, crunched up, me trying to cop a feel of her all the time. Because, I mean, I honestly do try to cop a feel on her. And I have got swatted at for that, which, to be fair, I do needed to be. But, with this, we're sitting, we're relaxed in our chairs. I don't know. There's a difference.
For an introvert like me, I guess I'm saying that. I do get, even on the Facebook Lives, I get very nervous and tense, and it's just harder. I don't like to be looked at. Don't look at me.
Well, I hope that.
Don't look at me. Look at my words.
I hope that we've made it, like, I've made it, like, a lot easier for your first time.
Absolutely.
Popping your cherry. I wasn't too rough with you, was I?
No.
No, it's fantastic talking to you. I've had a blast.
That's the thing, is that's the whole point, is just getting to know you guys as people, as a couple, get behind the scenes a little bit of just who you are and your personalities and stuff. And it's funny because when you guys say things, like, I've read all your books, so when you guys say some of the stuff about who writes what and how you do that, I didn't quite know that. However, I could totally see it. So I just think it's funny. And I know that some people are going to go check out your books, which is, and I'm not supposed to.
Oh no, that terrifies me.
It's all good because they're good. So, don't underestimate yourselves. You guys are amazing. You impact a lot of people. That you impacted me, and thrilled that you said you'd be on, because I was super, super nervous that you'd turn me down.
Oh no.
No. I remembered your name. I'm like, she used to post in our group all the time. What the hell happened to her?
I found you too.
And then I'm like, and she's like, because I wished you a happy birthday is why you did it. That's right. And you're like, I had to talk to you about being on podcast. I'm like, go ahead, shoot me a message.
Yeah,
explain it to us old people.
Yeah, explain it to old people so we can, we can get this new confounded things to work. But yeah, no, it's fine. We really enjoyed it.
In all honesty, the reason it happened that way is I never looked up I was reading books on my phone nonstop all day, like I do now, basically. But I never looked up. And then I stumbled in one day and I actually jumped into a Disturbed version of Sound of Silence, and I was looking at the video because I had it stuck in my head, so I looked it up on YouTube, which I never used YouTube.
Is she still there? Kat, did you cut out?
For having
I think I just cut out.
Difficulties.
Everything on my desk just fell over for no reason. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I'm sorry. I'm like,
that's okay.
Push. I don't know what I did. Yeah, if it wasn't a little bit ratchet at some point in the stream, y'all know that it wouldn't be me. No, I found YouTube. Like, I found a reactor, and actually he's been on the podcast, the very first one I ever subscribed to. That I was like, oh my God, this is so much fun. And I kind of went down a rabbit hole in that, and it got me off of books. I got into Discords. I got really involved with communities. Started my own community, and then I got that really built up. And then in January, I started the podcast, and I started inviting all the people that I was really rocking with for the whole time of the last like 8 months before. And now I'm like, what did I do before that? I was reading, and I'm doing it again, nonstop. So I reached out to you guys first and got an answer first before I did reach out to Carver Pike. And so
Sorry.
he's gonna be.
I'm
He
just.
said yes, and he's gonna be on. And
I'm gonna
that's
rub that in his face though. It's just how it is with us too. But I love him to death. So yeah, I'm gonna have to be like, hey, I was there, man. First, man.
well, you know.
Sorry. I was gonna say something awful, and I'm debating if I should say it, but
No, don't.
no. He's just getting the sloppy seconds on this. Well, we were there
Will you
first.
stop?
No, it's
No,
true.
'cause-
No, it's true though, because actually I found him through you guys anyway. So I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I have no reason to like bullshit about it. It's how I found him. That's why I found some authors, not all of them, but some of them, is because
Oh, I do.
you would allow them to post into your stuff, and or I'd see like, oh, hey, here's a suggestion, and I'm like, who the hell? And then I'd realize who they were, and I'd kind of go check them out. So that's how all that worked.
No, that's awesome because I love him, and that I think he should get a lot of recognition for what he does with his work.
No, absolutely. And like I got his book too, so that I have it in hand. Physical, I
Nice.
got Faces of Beth, physical copy. It's sitting right underneath yours.
It's on the bottom.
Lily's on top.
I better be on the ball.
Of
Yeah,
Beth.
that's right.
Lily's on top
Just
of
tell him
Beth.
he's a. When he comes on, just be like, yeah, you're definitely the bottom. That's
Yeah,
what
you're
Sean
bottom.
said. Sean said you're the bottom.
Yeah, Sean was talking a lot about pegging and something about you're the bottom or he has a bottom. I'm not sure. Like we'll just leave that out.
Just
later.
tell him last time, Sean yelled YOLO, and he was all about it. So
No, absolutely.
Leroy Jenkins.
It just matters who I bring on first and who I. For my community, for myself, it's personal. I basically reach out to everyone personally whenever I invite anybody on, and try to have a conversation with them and say, hey, this is what I'm doing. If you're cool with it, great. Some people blow me off, but if they respond, most of them say yes. Otherwise, they just ignore me. But I just appreciate you guys coming on because I didn't know it, but it meant a lot. And when I was posting all the time, that's what it was. And then I found Discord, and you can obviously how involved I am with Discord and with my channel and stuff. This is where I'm at instead of there. So
It's kind of like you stopped posting our group and you went and got pregnant with Discord and stuff like I did with WoW. You know?
no, that's kind of true. Because that's the thing is because, by the way, guys, if they do have a Facebook group, and I will post it in the Discord if anybody's.
okay.
And it's actually really cool. And there's a lot of cool people, book lovers, and they love the genre, and they love, Izzy Sean to pieces, and they post some really salacious shit. It's really great.
Yeah, they do.
And it's
You'd
awesome.
be surprised how dirty all us women
Oh
get.
yeah, we get super dirty. Like the ones that are like, I don't know. There was one that was posted a long time ago. I laughed for a good 5 straight minutes. It was something about villains and how, like, well, you have a choice. You can take like, oh, this wonderful guy is gonna treat you good, be great, or just have a villain. Everybody's like villain, villain, villain. They all voted like
Yeah.
villain, villain, villain.
Because they say a hero will kill you to save the world, but the villain will kill the world to save you.
Yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah, that's the big meme.
Down, hands down. But I appreciate you guys being here. Honestly, I'm not gonna take up too much
Thank
of
you
your
so
time.
much.
We've almost gone for 2 hours. Can you believe that?
Yeah. No.
Yeah, I can believe it because we tend to not shut up. It's just how it is with both of us. We
No.
talk a lot, babe.
It's cool.
And it's okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, I'm here to guide and ask questions and put my spin on things if I feel like it. But generally, it's here about you guys. This is about y'all. It's not about me. It's about you guys. So
Thank
I'm
you so
super
much. We
stoked.
truly appreciate for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
So now that we've started the show, let's get into the deep stuff.
But
That's real.
stop.
We're not
super
deep.
pegging. Is that what you're talking about? Like
Yes, the Omega. No, what is it? Omegaverse pegging now at this point?
Omega peg? Wow.
Yeah.
What? You don't even know. You're looking at me because you don't know what you're talking about.
That is true because I am not a part of the Omegaverse.
I
so
love it.
sorry.
I love. There's a reason you see me every once in a while, like, come on, I need the alien books, guys. I need the Megaverse. I want the slick flying everywhere. I want the alien to have 3 different kinds of wieners.
One with a pincer on it.
Give it to me. Like I read stuff that's very different than what I write, so that you can't get any more different. Like I want him to have tentacles coming out of his forehead. I like anybody read anything like that?
Sorry, I'm over here gagging, so no, that's just funky. You went past me on freakiness. That's weird.
Look at Tanya. She says, "Don't joke around. She'll stay." Yes, I will. That's how that works. No, but in all
Sorry.
honesty, we could definitely do another one if you guys have something coming down the pike, or you have anything that you
No.
like talking about, or if something's going on, if you have anything coming out. Obviously, the community now knows you. I'm
Yep.
thrilled to have you guys on again at any time. If you guys had a good time, then that's great.
Of course, we'd love to be back sometime.
Yeah, definitely.
I think we're probably going to call it there, guys, and
Yeah.
let them get to their stuff and let me go check on the poor child who's suffering without the internet on the computer, because that's life, right?
Oh my
Poor
goodness,
children.
2 hours and no internet.
no, what do I get to do?
That's
That's rough.
Read a book. I don't
Nice.
read books. Well, then you're screwed. But no, I appreciate everybody that's been in the chat. People that are listening in the future. Hello, future people.
And thank you for coming, guys.
Absolutely. And check out there. I'm going to put it in the description in a comment. I'm going to pin it. I'm going to pin exactly the moment that the podcast starts with the intro, so you can skip my badass waiting screen, because hello, it's badass. Thanks, Wolf. And also I'm going to put their website as well as, description, etc., etc. You know how I do it after, because apparently brain straight prior to. But yeah, if you want to check them out, I'll also put the Facebook link to the group so that all of the stuff we've talked about will be in. That's cool with you guys.
Oh, it's definitely cool.
yeah.
No promo. You don't want any. Oh, they don't want any promo, y'all.
Oh.
No, but I appreciate you guys. We're gonna go ahead and get out of here, so y'all have a great night.
You too. Thank you so much for having us.
Problem. All right, bye, guys.
Bye.